Next time you harass support, maybe reconsider? Worked as a technical support engineer for a company that provides SaaS to car dealerships. While not as many salespeople are evil as you'd think, though the Canadian ones were always somehow far more evil than the American ones. Go figure, we did have a serious problem with the occasional male calling in and fishing the queue for one of our female TSEs. It would get reported to management, who of course would look concerned and serious, and of course would do nothing about it. A couple years into the job we released a new build of our main product, which wasn't just shiny new user interface but also featured a full elastic stack. For those of you not in the know, we now had a log of 99.998% of everything our servers did and a frankly obnoxious list of information to go with it. We also changed to a handy-dandy new chat system which logged the IP of the person who connected. 6 months go by and one of the female TSEs on my team complains in chat about Dan being back. Right away all the other female members send their condolences. It seems Dan had suddenly shown up out of the blue a week ago and was a frequent chatter. They wouldn't provide any verifiable information, and seemed to just get their jollies by harassing our female chat members. They'd spend so much time doing this, in fact, that they'd managed to figure out when each female TSE would cover a chat window. Our TSEs had been putting up with some particularly vile nonsense from this person, but because he never gave verifiable information they assumed nothing could be done. Which would be true, but our new chat service now logged Dan's IP. And, as a coincidence, we also logged IPs. What wonderful happenstance. So I messaged my manager, who could barely pull themselves from Facebook long enough to clock in, never mind any actual management work, and informed him I had an urgent project I needed to tackle. Routine for me, as I was always doing his work for him. 10 minutes later I've matched Dan's IP to a username at not one, but 2 unrelated dealerships. 10 minutes after that and I've got logs from no less than 14 inappropriate chats from Dan which corresponded to the same IP as a user Daniel and a host of tickets from that same person. Turns out this Daniel was employed at dealership A and was caught cheating their employer. Their user account at dealership A is inactivated about 3 weeks ago, and then a few days later that same IP is in use at dealership B tied to a user with the same surname as Daniel. It seems Daniel decided we were to blame for him getting caught cheating, which was true. I'd gotten roped in by a customer success manager, an account manager, for the uninitiated, to help their contact at dealership A confirm if they were being cheated. It may seem like a coincidence, but of the senior TSEs I was the only one not assigned a VIP client and so got assigned to handle all the critical issues the CSM team brought to us. Half an hour later I'm in a meeting room with my director, the dealership B CSM, the CSM director, and the COO to go over my findings. Everyone but my director is shocked at the comments they're reading, and flabbergasted at how clearly everything lines up. Our COO asks me flat out, "How often does this happen?" I tell him it's been something reported on by our female TSEs since I started here, but I'd not heard about it in a while. That said, I asked all our TSEs about it privately and they confirmed there's generally one person at any given time who does this. I've informed them the next time they feel someone is abusing chat access they can come to me and I'll make sure it gets handled, and I've just submitted a change of process to director that establishes a process to ban any IP or phone number from our system if the person on the line harasses any TSE. COO throws a moderate death glare at my director, presumably because a TSE shouldn't be needing to write policy to protect support reps from harassment, and says to forward it to him so he can get legal to include something in our contracts going forward about it. I then get to sit in the room with everyone else while COO personally calls up the owner of dealership B on speakerphone and has a conversation with him. He lays out everything, and informs the owner that this person is to not contact support ever again. The owner says that won't be a problem. He calls in his general manager and has the person terminated on the spot. I was honestly surprised at how little resistance there was. We didn't even have to provide any of the evidence I dug up. I figure either this person was already accused of similar at their work, or the severity of a COO having to call you up to complain about one of your employees' behavior is enough to go on. Anyway, I get to go back to support and deliver the good news. The change in process I submitted was expanded to allow any TSE to terminate contact with anyone, for any reason. Our female TSEs were all called into meetings with HR, our COO, and our director where they were given clear instructions by HR that our harassment policy extends to clients and that if they report an issue of harassment to a manager and nothing happens then HR is to be contacted immediately. Over the course of the next 2 weeks I get called on to help a CSM read through some chat logs which was of course cover. Apparently all the CSMs were ordered to go through their clients' chat logs, and any time they found inappropriate behavior. Well, I was really busy there for a month or so. Moral of the story, next time you harass support, maybe reconsider? Story 2. The cup holder joke. This story dates back to when I first started working tech support in the late 90s. These were the days of big beige boxes and CD drives that whirred in or out when you pressed the eject button. At the time there was a joke about an old lady calling tech support to say that the cup holder on her computer had broken. I'm sure you've all heard it, but to ruin it for those who haven't, she thought the CD drive tray was a cup holder. Every IT worker thought it was funny the first time they heard it, mainly because we all know users that stupid. The joke soon made it past the walls of the IT office, and suddenly you were being told the joke by every non-tech person who knew what you did. It gradually got less funny, although it was still worth a chuckle when you knew the person asking you had done things just as, or even more ridiculous. There was, however, always someone who took it too far. The office I worked at had polystyrene cups for hot drinks, you remember the kind. The ones that have probably banned for being an environmental nightmare. They weren't great for drinking out of, and they broke if you happened to squeeze too hard. One funny guy, probably a broker or a middle-level accountant, loves the story and realized that the cups fit snugly in the cut-out portion of the CD drive, so thought it would be hilarious to actually use it as a cup holder. When inserted, about 1/3 of the cup protruded below the level of the drive tray, with the rest above. When I first spotted it, I laughed politely and then asked him nicely not to. He, not so politely, refused. From that day, every time he saw me coming, he would make sure his cup was sitting neatly in his fun new cup holder, and would point it out to me and everyone around him, eliciting gradually decreasing amounts of laughter. I asked him not to on several occasions, pointing out the danger of liquids around computers, but every time he refused to stop. I raised it with my boss, but the idiot was higher up the tree than both of us and our warnings went nowhere. After a couple of days I gave up. Probably a week later I was out on the floor and passing his desk, so he stuck the cup in the drive, and prepared to make a joke about it. He reached out to point at the cup and misjudged how far away it was, accidentally catching the eject button with his finger. The drive whirred, retraction the tray slowly but forcefully, and neatly cut straight through the cup. Coffee went everywhere. Across his desk, into the CD drive and through the grills on his PC. The PC emitted a quiet cracking noise, and buzzed. With a pop his screen went out and smoke started to waft lightly from his desktop. I think he ended up having to pay to replace the machine as it had been damaged due to stupidity and he had been warned.